Friday, everybody. Deb and John with Mike from Commensal. Commensal, okay. I have heard it both, so I want to get on camera and hear it from you.
That's how I say it.
You name it.
Right.
And that's what I'm curious about. How did you come up with that name?
So, I'll probably repeat myself many times with this, but trying to create something with like intention. And so while trying to find something with that I could lean into science with my background in microbiology, I also came across commensal, like the Latin meaning. The original archaic meaning is like the people that you share your table with or who you break bread with. Then now it's used in like more like ecological terms, and it's a type of symbiosis between one species that is going to benefit and the other species is not harmed nor benefits, so it's more happenstance. So I could talk about so loosely, you know, with the people that want to learn more about some of these like odds and ends of like this symbiotic relationships. So I get to be a nerd a little bit about that, but also a deeper meaning with like the long tables over there and like people that want to sit down and like share our beer or just share a table with someone. It could be, it's more than that. It's more than just science.
That's a wonderful vision to have.
I got lucky.
It wasn't taken?
It wasn't taken. If you Google it, the only thing that shows up is scholarly articles, and I was like, this is perfect for a brewery. Nothing else is out there that's remotely close.
Sure.
That could be different by now.
And the shared meaning, and then, you know, like to the symbiosis and its fermentation, it's like, here this is. Like, here is yet another ecosystem community of things that goes on.
100%.
And that's really cool. So
it is.
That's really cool.
I'm the words person. I have an English degree and
amazing.
I've written and edited all my life, and John kept saying it and I go, I don't know what that is. And for me to not know is odd, so thanks for straightening me out.
Teamwork.
And all of us.
It's all teamwork. Yeah, the Latin
Commensal fermentation, y'all.
But yeah, and that was like something that stuck with me, was to be able to have these two meanings. Just far more into the intention piece of the puzzle, and like, you know, with the Southern, you know, school system, it's not very good. So big words.
I escaped when I was 11.
Fair. Yeah.
What's that skit, that bit in Nate Bargatze's thing about, I took speech. You think they would get that out of me? Like, it literally, you know. Like, oh man. This is such a really cool, this is a really cool podcast to be doing, and this is such a cool project. You've been doing some cool stuff for a while, and it's not just let's dabble and play, but yet let's think of some things and do something creative and like go an interesting direction with it, and not necessarily following the market and the trends, but kind of helping create them, man. I'm gonna say you've had some pretty, you know, leader kind of projects and things that you've done, which is really, really, really pretty cool. And I'm sure for you, that's just like, you know, get to play, I get to do some things and work with something that, you know, you enjoy and find fulfillment, hopefully.
Yeah, you know, it's why I love making beer. But the enjoyment really is watching people like have pints, right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, I get to challenge myself and work with ingredients. We don't, you know, charting a course of like, oh, I need all these core beers isn't really something that's interesting to me, because while I enjoy efficiency and I enjoy process, making the same thing over and over to like feed a system feels very, which is like counterintuitive to like complete like the marketplace. It's like, oh, you have to have these things. And I'm just like, well, if I have all these things, then I don't really get to get better at my job. I get better at process, but I don't understand more ingredients. I don't get to use different yeast strains. I don't get to push myself in other ways and really explore and then continue to manipulate those things that I've used. It's like, if you're making eggs every single day, it's like, cool, I'm really good at making eggs this way. But it's like, why don't mix it up and try and do that? But then we have customers that come in and we can also say, hey, you know, if you are into this type of beer, then you can generally find something on our tap list that's going to be in that way. I am always seeking improvement. I'm always trying to learn more. There's like, I never want to settle. And I think in this industry, it's become very present that settling is like volatile.
Yeah.
If you're settling on that thing that you won an award for 6 years ago, that, you know, and it's like, it is tough because you're like, we're just going and everyone wanted it, but why does everyone, they don't want it as much and they want it even less. And then you're stuck thinking, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's like, if you have to adapt and like grow and try to be able to do things and don't, you know, I feel like that's not what the Brewers Association says, and that's totally fine, but that's my point of view from like where I stand. And then I also get to see the customers feel like they're getting different things and unique flavors and tastes. And I want them to confide in the brand more than just having it all be transactional.
Can you tell us about some of those beers that you're
For sure.
doing and are working on?
Yeah, so one of the first beers we produced, I just loosely called this European lager. And I wanted to, and I'm still working on it. I've only done it twice since we've been open. It's currently like available right now. But the idea was, I want this rustic feeling, like higher protein. Maybe use some other malts. There's a ton of spelt in that beer, which gives you this like honey note. And being able to kind of work on this thing that's like, okay, it's also the yeast strain is very non-phenolic, so you're not picking up a bunch of yeast notes that are German, which is generally the higher percentage of yeast strains that we see in the marketplace, which is totally fine. Love them. I don't feel like I want to make that. I also don't want to feel like I'm going to offer a thing that you can find all over the place. And that's totally fine that everyone else wants to do that, but I have to find a way to, I've never used this yeast strain before. I've never used that percentage of spelt in a lager and all these other things, but I'm like, this is where I want to go. Luckily, it tasted kind of good. Outside of that, I also, opening up, everyone said, are you going to be making sour beers? Like, is that going to be your focus? And I still get asked that, you know, as customers come in and know my background, and my thing is like, I'm just making beer. Craft beer, it's 2025. You should be able to make a wide range of things and do it well, because the information is out there. You can find all that stuff. So instead, as like a slight to a lot of the people that thought I would have sours just in abundance, so I'll make a hazy session IPA and try and get it close to 3%, like, you know, 4%. And which really was funny because like brewers are like, why would you make that? Because session beers, low ABV beers, especially for a hazy, can be difficult. They're often disjointed. They're often like a hop water / like, what is this, like sweet, like it doesn't drink well. So I knew if I did that and I executed it, it would be more of this thing that like, oh, I can also make non-sour beer. And I'm doing it in this way that's very drinkable, that drinks like a higher ABV beer, and like just to kind of say, oh yeah, it's not all sour beer. And I'm educated in brewing as well, but it's this thing where I'm like, I'll decide what I want to do, and I don't feel like, you know, but the customers come in and they're just like, you don't see this a lot. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason. I'm very happy the feedback has been so good, but I was kind of being sarcastic to a lot of the people that are reaching out thinking like, do you think it's good just to do sours only? And it's like, I'm not going to only do sour beer.
Been there, done that.
You know, and it's like, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But let me also do all these other things that I think actually have a place in the market space right now. I think people, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
People want lower ABV beers. People
Yes.
want things with flavor. They don't want, you know, and there's still people that do. But I think the people that like to drink beer that don't consider themselves like the craft beer, like connoisseur, would love to have more beers, but all the beers they feel like are too heavy, or, you know, they're like, man, I can barely finish it. So,
And you're touching that lifestyle change that is going on right now, where people are looking for less alcohol in their drink.
right.
So that was smart too.
Sometimes things just work out. Don't give me that much credit.
Oh, you're an inspiration. So I want to ask a question, and I know nothing
Fair.
about beer. I mean, I have it. John often chooses it for me. But so yeast. you use, where do you get your yeast?
So there's a bunch of commercial manufacturers of yeast. So they'll grow it up depending on like your pitch size. And there's, believe it or not, there's like a spice cabinet of different types of yeast.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, it's insane. Sometimes it's almost overwhelming, even though I've been doing it for so long that it's like, well, I've never used it. So, and it's one of those things that's tough because they can give you information and you're still just like, my application is going to be a little bit different. And yeah, we buy from the suppliers and it's convenient.
Now, I'm going to probably embarrass myself with this next inquiry. There's yeast all over wine
Oh, for sure.
rooms.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in your car. It's
Yeah.
it's in here. Yeah.
Is any of that yeast collected and used or no?
Yes. So in the same instance that spontaneous fermentation essentially happens within wine, where native yeast that are already on the grapes starts that fermentation. Same thing with cider producers. Beer also has that same. Granted, you can get something to go just from malt by itself in like the mashing process, and a lot of that will be mostly souring bacteria. From there, you can take this like wort that's been like ready to go that we would add yeast, and often it's put into a cool ship so it can cool off. And then during that process, usually the windows are open somewhere and it's cooling off, and that's a very traditional method of like cooling. It still happens today in breweries that do not cool their beer with like modern methods, with just like counterflow heat exchangers, but they'll open up and they'll let things cool off. Cool ships still exist, and then they'll pitch their yeast after. But if we let this hang out in a place where it's exposed to the sort of microbial ecology of whatever's blowing in the wind based on season, it will inoculate. And in theory, with like a high enough concentration, pitch count, it will ferment.
That's wonderful.
It's fun.
You really taught me something today. I appreciate that.
Teamwork.
When you break it down with when the natural wine craze was going, or skin inclusion orange wines, pet nats were starting to be a thing. What's a pet nat? I'm like, short for, and Pet Natural. I'm like, it's literally kind of in the name that this is how things were done way back when, and this is just kicking it off with whatever's flying around and whatever's going on. It's literally, press it, put it over there, let it get old, and do its own thing on its own. But when you talk about, kind of the basis formula for alcohol or fermentation, it's like yeast, eat sugar, like booyah, here you go. These are those little bits that are on the bottom of your fill in the blank, if it's not been filtered or whatever. Like, so don't, it makes bubbles, it does this. I'm like, that is what's going on here. I'm like, but it is as simple as that, but it's also not as simple as that.
Right.
That like, here's a basic recipe for this, which is going on all the time. Your bread, your kombucha, like pick a thing,
right?
Vinegar, like by design. The thing that I find so cool is that this admiration and this ever increasing interest and education on fermentation and so many different aspects is still going on. Not just the pandemic when we all became sourdough masters or trying to, but just that this is something that happens in nature, and this is like, let's learn about it, and then it's not necessarily to drive it, but to suggest or just kind of see, and it's really cool to see people are still so interested in this. And when you look at the different beers that you make and what's going on, and that those are going to be in a limited availability, because like this is this much. This is, it would be seasonal depending on what you've got. Whatever, I just think it's so cool that part of that journey and learning about fermentation can also be come have a beer, you know,
Sure.
come sit
Absolutely,
and come sit and talk to Mike and have your head literally your mind blown.
If you choose, not forcing anything on anybody, you know. And a lot of times, like, it's, but you know, and it is kind of like the fun thing being behind the bar. And people might say, you know, and obviously, I'm not wearing a badge that says, "Oh, I made the beer."
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know, and they're just like, they'll ask some questions, and then they realize, like, "Oh, you made this." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
and then sometimes there's like a ton more questions, or sometimes it's just like, oh, that's cool, you know. And I value that. I valued that when I was a home brewer, you know, almost 20 years ago. Being able to have like a discourse with a professional brewer and think to myself, oh, what, you probably know so many things. And it never gets old, you know. That's because being able to relate to that, and then having people ask you questions, I always have time for that. I'm always there for that. I feel like that's what was provided to me, but I also feel like this stuff is beer. You know, even with like sour beer, when that comes out and we release that, this like idea behind sour beer is that it's this exquisite like thing, and it's like it's aged and you got to talk about it a certain way, and like realistically it's still beer. And also I always keep in my mind that not everyone likes it.
Sure.
Just because I think it's like good, or like the next person thinks it's amazing, it's like the next person might hate it. And that's a thing where it's like, this is all subjective. Like everyone's completely
100%.
different.
So true.
And I can't, and it's something where I'm like, yeah, you're not supposed to like everything. Like you're literally not supposed to. And that's okay. And let's find something that you do like.
And you hit on some key points that, thinking of, you know, for my past running a wine bar and doing those kind of things, it's those educational opportunities, it's the storytelling, it's the, we're not going to put out here, you should taste this. We're going to put in here, you know, we dry age this, or we did this, we use these hops, we use this yeast, we use a combo, we put this on, you know, pumice of fill in the blank, or whatever's going on. Then you can decide what you taste, because we're not going to tell you, because that's not right. You know, it's here. Are you having a good day, bad day? What music's playing? Are you having Thai food? Are you having barbecue? Are you having cheesecake? You know,
or your allergies bother.
Yeah, your allergies. Yeah, you're just done. You know,
exactly. It's like, give up.
That's cool too when you hear you talk about that too, because, you know, engaging with the people.
100%.
And again, the storytelling and the educational opportunities.
Yeah, it's always fun.
And people are hungry for it now. I mean, that's making the shift from, you know, culinary and wine life forever to doing this. It's not just the lens of, now I'm a magazine publisher, but that people really want to know the story, and they're really hungry to learn more, you know, and geek out on it, you know,
for sure.
Like they really can, they're really into it.
For sure.
Whether it's watching this, or picking up something and reading, or coming in and catching you behind the bar.
As long as you can keep it interesting enough, you know, that it doesn't get scrolled past, right? That quick elevator pitch. No, that we do that a lot in here, and there's so much more like sensorially that goes on, like that's psychological. And a lot of times you have people come in that, I don't know what beer I want, I don't really like beer, what do you suggest? And really it's like feeling it out, like what are you into? You know, what generally do you like? And sometimes that question doesn't help at all. And so you're like, all right, cool, that's fine. And it's more or less like, do you trust me or whatever? And then we'll like pull a couple samples. And a lot of times people are like, well, what is this? Or what is this? And it's like, no, just try it. I don't want to put any ideas in your head. I want you to actually just taste it and see if that's something that you're willing to, that you feel like maybe you wouldn't have ordered, or that you do like those flavors, or you don't. But I don't want to put anything in anyone's head after they've read the menu and they glaze over and I tell them what the name is and it turns out they hate IPAs. But if they don't know and they're like, okay, we're willing to take a risk. You have already told me that you'll try something. And then we can help meet them in the middle because a lot of times it's so easy to get turned off by so many things that you're like, oh, I had this thought that I had all these like IPAs at one time and I got sick, or I had this IPA at this other place and I didn't like it, or it's too bitter, and it's like one and the same. Everyone's making a different product.
Exactly.
And really it's just like hoping that people have patience and they want to try that. And then they're going to sit down and enjoy a beer that they're at least were like, oh, that's actually not bad. And you're like, well, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for that.
I'll
like,
take that.
And then the glass comes back empty and it's like, hey, did you enjoy it? They're like, yeah, that was really good. And you're like, taking the time to meet people halfway, and granted, it's just beer. We're not selling a boat to anybody. It's pints, right? But at the same time, if we can build up that relationship and that rapport, then hopefully people come back.
Right.
And then hopefully that also, maybe they'll go to another place and feel like they could take the time in another place too, as long as they feel like they're getting that attention.
And it's more value added to what they're spending their money on and building that relationship,
Right.
And recommend it to their friends.
Recommend it to
because
their
they
friends.
had the kind of,
Hey.
they were treated
Right.
that way.
Yeah. That's the hope.
And you remember
That's the
that.
hope.
Like that sticks,
Yeah.
We talk about food this way. We talk about farming this way. We talk about, people just don't, these are agricultural products and things that, it's such I had a mission statement once that said, this is one of the most intimate things is that we're preparing this food that was farmed by this, and we're doing this and making this beer with this, that Mother Earth and and it's like, and you're taking that in, and so let's do the right thing,
Right.
by you, by the planet, by our
Right.
community, by each other, and that you're being handled with care and intention,
Right.
Which is clear.
Absolutely.
And you learned something along the way, and it was all in a pint of beer.
And
you put the pinky down, man. Like, you can still just
Exactly.
kick them and go to the
Yeah,
barbecue if you want to.
All that exists. There's a lot of different applications. And I feel like a large part, like right now, craft beer is in a weird world where a lot of people don't want to go to breweries. A lot of it is transactional, where it's like, okay, staff doesn't engage, or I'm just giving money and I'm not going to stay here long. And these are trends that have been in, craft beer for a while. And they're saying, how do we keep people in the tap rooms? How do we do all these things? And a lot of that for me was like, okay, well, I've always enjoyed being able to talk about beer to people if they want to. But I also, it's like, I've always been like, when people tell me I don't like beer, it's just like, you've not had the right beer. Like, that's more of the thing.
That's
and
a
it's
challenge.
and it's like, I don't want to throw everything at you. I'm sure there might be something you like, unless you're just someone that's never, you're going to own that and you're going to stay in that, sort of situation where you don't. And that's fine too. But taking the time and doing the thing, it's like, that's what, craft beer was.
Absolutely.
And now it's definitely just feels like this machine where it's like,
It feels
pouring
already
pints
like a
and giving it to
machine.
you. Yeah.
Oh.
But-
it's the world that it's
Yeah.
welcome
Yeah.
to us. On
Yeah,
Wednesday,
for sure. I mean, but I, it's nice to be able to be in a space where it's like here, it's like we're trying not to be transactional, so it is familiar. Like it is a tap room, and it's relative. You can sit down and enjoy pints and enjoy your company, or enjoy a book, or do the things.
Fireplace.
Yeah, enjoy the fireplace.
And cozy places to
Yeah,
sit.
it's beautiful.
Right. And hope that you do want to tell other people to come back. And
Sure.
I feel like that is more of a trend that logically maybe it's already started. I don't know. I don't have a lot of time to keep up with those things, or maybe it's a situation where it will be coming, where people are like, okay, if we focus more on like this is supposed to be our home base.
Yeah.
The home base should be like the pinnacle experience, not an experience that is just, transactional. Give me the money, here's the pints. Check you later.
So I'm curious, do you have an idea what you would, what's the next thing that you would like to play around with?
Yeah, I have beers in the back that are sour. I need to finish those. I've got a few projects already planned, like collaborations that I'm really excited about. There are things that I've never done. So once again, pushing myself and saying, man, I hope this turns out. Outside of that, I have intentions and plans on doing spontaneous fermentation stuff. Mostly because, like I said, I really like science and microbiology, and being able to kind of have this idea and like project in mind that it's going to be a fun way to encapsulate a lot of different things under like one umbrella, but hopefully showcase a lot of different microbial ecology without spilling all the beans, because you know, but something I can have side by side things, and those expressions will all be different, but we'll be able to talk about those expressions. We'll be able to basically pinpoint them, which is really fun. And if people don't want to listen, like, they can just drink the beer too. There's no one. I don't want to force feed anybody any information they're not into. And I think more wine, beer projects, just because like my love, I should say, of like wine is pretty tremendous. So like working with that, tying in like sour and wild beers with that, continuing to grow and continuing to improve on our non-sour beers, and really just hoping that we can continue to build confidence with everyone that comes in. That, and especially if they're like, I'm not into that, I've not had that. Ideally, we've worked on like this level of trust that we've built, that hopefully they'll be like, all right, I'll try it. And then never know, they may like it and they may not. You know, we have time for that. Like, that is what we have time for.
That's good.
That's so cool.
That's really good. Yeah.
It just gives it that there. You know, when we started doing this, or brought back the magazine, and now we're doing these. Thank you again, Dean. But it's like, one thing I love, you know, West Coast, Oregon, this town and surrounding it, the soul, the grit, the there. You know what I mean? It's like there's just a passion and this. We do things a little different. For sure. And we like to experiment and think outside the box, but it's about bringing everybody together, you know, and like, let's do this. And it all comes with such a spirit and a soul, and that's just, it's cool. It's really cool. It's fulfilling.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that like Portland is home, and getting out of the military in 2011 and like moving here, and just knowing that like I felt good being in Portland, you know, and it felt great. But also getting into the food scene, and like all these things are at my fingertips, and like my wife and I just being able to go out all these restaurants, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, that just was all over the country, and like nothing really felt the same, where like all these things are here, everything is like so focused on like fresh and local, or all these flavors, and then on top of that, everyone's like really working to support each other, and then you see these other chefs at this other restaurant, and then everyone's supporting, and you're like, there is community here.
Mike said it first today. It's always a countdown when we're having a conversation. Like, how many times, or which one of us is going to say the C word? Community.
And it's huge. And I mean, Portland is a small city for sure. But even though it's a small city, you can get stuck in whatever neighborhood you live in, and like never leave it. Like it's like, I just walk down here, I don't feel like driving today. Or just jump on the bike and go like, you know, a mile.
North Williams and Failing. And it's just like,
I don't have to.
Your team is right there. You know, I'm like, man, there's 100 feet, half a block. You know, you get it done right here.
You don't have to, but people do. And a lot of times it's really cool, because a lot of the people, obviously not in the industry of like food and beverage, when they see something, they are so focused on supporting like the new thing, or so focused on supporting a thing that's like started from like loosely scratch, and they want to support that, they want to cheer those people on, and then champion them, and then also get them to do more, and then they're like letting people know, and then, which is maybe because it's a small city that it feels like it's very loud, but it's one of those things where you feel like people want to check it out, they want to support, they want to figure it out, and then if it resonates with them, or they want to boost that as well, which is honestly, I mean, pandemic stages were kind of crazy with that, but
Sure.
it feels like things are, coming sort of back to life.
It really does. I even last fall, even in November, I felt kind of like there was a breath of fresh air coming, even as we've gotten kicked off into what seems like a decade already, and it's just now May of 2025. But there is some wonderful spirit, and energy going on here, and it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And it's because of people like you and what's going on here. It is clear there's a community-driven, philosophy behind it, and you can make a bunch of beer and have it with your buddies, or you can make some and invite and make new friends,
100%.
and we kind of need that now, probably more than in a long while.
Yes.
In a long while, it's like, okay, let's get in this together, and just find something in common. This is a crazy idea. Find something in common for once that we can share and or learn.
Well, you had also, when we were talking about where we were born, and hospitality is a big part of the South, and it's everywhere. And you learn from your parents, how to do it when you're older. But that's what this feels like, is, just real hospitality. Come in, I'll help you to see what you want and find. And I think you got it.
I mean, we're trying, I think that double dose of like growing up as a kid in the South, but then also going to the military, And then I had to unlearn, I had to stop saying sir and ma'am all the time. And which is great. That's evolution in itself, and keeping up with those things. I get to say y'all more, but that idea of hospitality is huge, and that just goes back to the idea that it's like, if you walk into a tap room and there's no energy, and then you're kind of stuck thinking to yourself, like, do I really want to be here for another pint? I can just go to the next one that's not far. And then those are the things where it's like, I feel like, A, it's a must for a new business that's trying to survive as it is. B, it's like, that's the next level of just feeling like you're welcome to come into the brewery tap room, where the space, generally, I feel like a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to another brewery. And they walk in and it's like, oh no, like we got time for you. We're here and we get it. And we're humans. And even if you don't drink beer, you don't like beer, we have options.
Sure.
And we're willing to hope to find something that you do want to drink, and if you want to just chat at us, we chat. If you don't want to, and it's like, you have to be able to, also understand, that dynamic of just not everyone wants to talk to you, or maybe someone does want to talk after they have a pint or whatever, and you're reading people, just the interactions.
Which is a real gift.
Yeah.
If you know how to do that. It is a real gift. Well, this has been delightful, Mike. I mean, I've learned stuff, and I always like to learn, and just knowing that, it has the same values as some of the other things that we talk about, in our magazine and in our podcast. I mean, we continue, like you said, community and natural, and making it the way it was made years and years ago. So I really appreciate the education I got today.
Oh, for sure. Happy to help out. I don't know much, but
yes, you do.
Where are we? We're
North Williams.
North Williams.
That's correct. Just past Failing.
Beautiful artwork on the front of the building. That's so cool. A little parklet patio out there.
Go ahead and say the address.
3901 North Williams Avenue, Suite A.
Cool.
If you're still unsure, diagonal across the street from Eam. It's always a good landmark. Always a good neighbors.
Good neighbors.
Really
and
good
there's some
neighbors.
serious creativity in this neighborhood too.
Sure.
It's amazing. It's got to be really cool just to chill and be in this part of town.
It's also fun just to be here working all the time, and then going to the coffee shops, getting coffee, or like doing whatever I need to do during the day, and then seeing like some of our regulars and stuff, and feeling like it's like, okay, I spend my money in the neighborhood. You know, I'm out here with like, maybe they don't want to see me when they're getting coffee. Like, no, I didn't. Yeah, and it's like I also have to gauge like, do I say hi? Is this weird? Like I want to say hi, but we'll just feel it out.
Right.
But it is, you know, that's that thing where it's like I enjoy living around here too, and like this is a great neighborhood. There's many neighborhoods in Portland. Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Thanks, man.
Sure.
Thanks for
Thank you.
short notice and just jumping on
stress.
it.
Yeah.
And just thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
And bringing something different. You really are bringing something different and the coolness. So I appreciate
Doing
it.
my best.
Yeah. All cool.
Yeah, thank you, Deb, for doing this one.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dean. I know we say this a lot. One of these days, we're going to get the camera turned around. We're going to make Dean talk about things. And we thank you guys. You know, you're the important people. You're the readers. You're the supporters. You're the reason we want to do this and share everything and call up people like Mike and say, hey, what are you doing on Friday morning? And, so thank you guys. Happy spring to everybody.
Yep.
And
happy Mother's Day. to
happy
the
Mother's
mothers.
Day
right.
coming up in a couple days. Yeah, I think that's got it. Bees and water, y'all. We'll see you out there. Thank you.
Gosh,
That was
it
cool, man.
So fun.
Good.
I mean, I'm serious. You make me think about beer in a whole different way than I've ever thought about it, and so now I've got a whole lot of things I can try.
Yeah.
You know.